November 6th meeting of the James City County Planning Commission to order. Mr. Holt, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Dowdy, who represents the Stonehouse District, could not be with us this evening. Ms. Leverins.
Here.
Ms. Leverins is an at-large member. Mr. Polster.
Here.
Mr. Polster represents the Jamestown District. Mr. Schmidt.
Here.
Mr. Schmidt represents the Roberts District. Mr. O'Connor.
Here.
Mr. O'Connor is an at-large member. Mr. Kropp.
Here.
Mr. Kropp represents the Powhatan District and is this year's vice chair. Mr. Haldeman.
Here.
Mr. Haldeman represents the Berkeley District and is this year's chair. I'm Paul Holt, Director of Community Development and Planning for the county, and sitting to my left is Mr. Max Salavin, our Deputy County Attorney. Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you. We now have an opportunity for public comment. This is an opportunity for anyone to speak to a subject not on the public hearing calendar for this evening. Time is limited to 3 minutes. We don't have any speaker cards. Would anybody like to address the Planning Commission? Seeing none, we'll move on to reports of the Commission. Ms. Leverins?
Yes, because I have a personal interest in the Promenade at 5, because I have an option to purchase property there, I will recuse myself from that discussion.
Do you have a policy committee?
No, we didn't have a policy committee meeting.
Great, thank you. Mr. Polster.
The Development Review Committee met at 4 p.m. on the 23rd of October, 2019. The committee members present were Jack Haldeman, Danny Schmidt, and Frank Polster. Staff members were present were Ellen Cook, Senior Planner, Thomas Weissong, Senior Planner, and Katie Pelletier, Planner. Applicants were Mr. Robert Singley, Jr. and Senior of RJS Associates Incorporated, and Holly Smith and Woody Perry from Forge Road, LLC. C19-0082-6623 Richmond Road Master Plan Consistency Determination for 12,200 square feet of non-retail use, a car club, a baseball club, and a fitness center at a location previously identified on the master plan as retail office. The DRC had no questions for the staff or the applicant, RJS and Associates, and were comfortable with the proposed additions to the master plan. The DRC found the proposal consistent with the adopted master plan and recommended approval to the Planning Commission with a vote of 3-0 for approval. And that's one of the items that we have on our consent calendar tonight. C19-0073-2822 Forge Road. A shared driveway exception request for a proposed 3-lot subdivision on one parcel located north of Forge Road. Section 1973 of the subdivision ordinance states that a shared driveway shall be required for any subdivision with 3 or more undeveloped lots. The comprehensive plan encouraged the preservation of the natural wooded and rural character of the county by various measures, including minimizing the number of street and driveway intersections along the main road by providing common driveways and interconnections of developments. There are 3 required exception criteria under Section 1918, and the staff analysis determined that the applicant failed to meet them. The applicants, Mr. Holly Smith and Mr. Woody Perry, Forge Road, LLC, made a presentation of the project and used a large-scale aerial photo to describe their proposed 3 driveways onto Forge Roads. Lots 2 and 3, located at the north end of the property, had driveways along the border of a property on both the east and west side. Lot 1 on the south side of the property bordering Forge Road. The applicant also indicated that they were extending the easement limiting by right development to the 118-acre parcel to only 3 residential sites. Mr. Schmidt had an interactive conversation with the applicants as the possibility of sharing the adjacent property driveways, which ran parallel to the proposed lots 2 and 3 driveways. The applicant indicated that an owner of an adjacent property of Lot 3 was very interested in purchasing Lot 3, and he would use his existing driveway as the entry onto Forge Road. There were some discussions of the same possibilities for Lot 2, but nothing as definite as the proposal for Lot 3. Mr. Polster noted that 2822 Forge Road was halfway between the firehouse number 1 on the east and the driveway at 4724 Forge Road on the west, a distance of 1 3/8 miles. That stretch of Forge Road had 15 existing driveways for 27 homes with the potential of adding 6 additional driveways and 6 more homes. The stretch of Forge Road from Tohanna and the connecting road to Chickahominy Haven has 1,300 cars daily passing 2822 Forge Road. Mr. Spolster cited the Hampton Road Transportation Organization model for the area that is bordered on the north and east with Route 60 and on the south by Forge Road and Route 715, and in the east by Chickahominy River. The model was comparing the predicted changes between 215 and 245, showing a 31% increase in population and a 94% increase in autos. The DRC voted 2-1 denial of the exception request to the Planning Commission. After the vote, there was an open discussion between the applicant and staff about an alternative proposal that was discussed with the staff but unknown to the DRC. The DRC wanted to hear the alternative, which was a proposal of 2 driveways, one shared driveway between lots 1 and 2, and one driveway for lot 3, with the likelihood that lot 3 driveway would not be built given the interest of the adjacent landowner of lot 3. The DRC voted to set aside the initial vote of 2-1 denying the exception under section 1918. The DRC then voted 3-0 to recommend approval to the Planning Commission, the exception request under section 1918 specifying one shared driveway for lots 2 and one driveway for lot 3. The DRC adjourned for its next meeting on 20 November, and this issue is also part of the consent calendar, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Polster? Thank you. We'll move on to the consent agenda. These are items that are determined to be non-controversial. However, a planning commissioner can pull any item for discussion. We have 3 items this evening. Does anyone want to pull an item? May I have a motion to approve?
Mr. Chairman, I'd move that we approve the consent agenda as is.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
We'll move on to public hearings. The first public hearing is SUP 19-0019, 530 Neckoland Road Tourist Home. Mr. White.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. Mrs. Emily Huffman has applied for a special use permit to allow for the operation of 2 tourist home dwellings with a total of 4 tourist home units located at 530 Neckoland Road. The property is zoned R8 Rural Residential, is designated low-density residential in the comprehensive plan, and is located inside the primary service area. This SUP, if granted, would allow rentals throughout the year. Staff considers the home's location, parking provisions, and appearance to be favorable factors in the evaluation of this application. The front dwelling has been operating as a residence and accessory apartment, and the back dwelling is a duplex, which received a variance in 1985. Ample parking is provided with a circular drive in the front and parking area between the residence and duplex. Staff is recommending conditions which are intended to mitigate the impacts of the use and preserve the residential character of the home. Such conditions include restrictions on commercial, signage, vehicles, and lighting, and any future expansions of this use would require an SUP amendment. Staff finds the proposal to be compatible with the 2035 Comprehensive Plan, zoning ordinance, and surrounding development, and recommends that the Planning Commission recommend approval of this application subject to the conditions included in the packet. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. I'm not sure if my applicant has shown up tonight. I have never met her. Is Mrs. Huffman here?
Does anyone have any questions of Mr. White?
Hi, Mr. White. Just a quick clarification. The 2 dwellings that are on this lot, one is an accessory apartment and the other is a duplex that is a single-family home, or are both units rental properties?
The front dwelling is a single-family home with an accessory apartment in it. And the back dwelling is a duplex with equal sides, your typical type of duplex.
Okay, and now are they all rentals, or are the property owners currently living on the parcel?
Well, they're currently living there, but they plan on moving out before they start the SUP.
Okay, thank you.
Do we know what the variance was for? I mean, obviously it's put the duplex in, but was there a purpose for it?
As far as I know, it was just to grant approval of the duplex.
I understand from the conditions that more than one contract per unit is not permissible. But each of the 4 units could have a separate contract at the same time.
That is correct. You just can't have more than one family in one unit at a time.
Or one family could rent all 4. simultaneously if they
Conceivably, they
wanted to.
could.
Okay, thanks.
I have a question about the location on a local road. Is there significance to the fact that it's on a local road rather than a collector or an arterial road?
Well, that was a consideration because of the traffic, but it's been operating as 4 units, long-term rental, so we didn't think that it would add any more to the traffic that's already been generated, I think, since 1985. In addition, the unit right next door has the same situation, has 2 duplexes in front and back on the same parcel.
Have you received any comments from neighbors?
No.
One more question, if I could. In 2432, we define accessory apartment, so is it only detached units that require the immediate family member to live in it, or is it apply to attached units as well?
Off the top of my,
I can print it out if you want it. I was just looking for clarification on that if I could.
subsection B.
All right, I just wanted to confirm. Thanks.
Any other questions? Does anybody have any disclosures? Thank you very much, Mr. White.
Thank you.
I'll open the public hearing. Does the applicant wish to speak? No? Do we have any speaker cards? No? And yes, the applicant, the homeowner, are you here from the NECO land?
I am, sorry.
Okay. That's okay. Would you like to make any comments on this? Mr. White just represented you, but,
Is there any
it was just what was in the paperwork that you've already probably reviewed, but,
I think we're
questions of the, okay, thank you. We have no speaker cards. Would anybody from the public like to address this matter? No? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Discussions or a motion? Russ?
If I can, and I'm looking for maybe some staff feedback, this seems a little bit unusual as an application for a couple of reasons. Typically, the ones we've addressed in previous meetings for conversion of rental units or to designate something as a tourist home has been a single property on a single lot, whereas this is 2 properties or 2 structures on a single lot. And also, most of them have been on more significant roadways like Ironbound Road, to your point, Mr. Haldeman, arterial or connector roads. And so I've got some misgivings about the resulting, not only the location, but the resulting density on this particular parcel, if you will, that you have 4 separate units now being used as a tourist home. And it's a larger number than what we've typically dealt with. So if I'm looking to staff for some feedback on, did you have the same reaction? Did you feel that this was very clear cut in compliance with the tourist home ordinance and so on and so forth?
So I think we looked at it with the perspective that based on the earlier BZA variance, those 4 dwelling units are already permitted and have long existed. What is consistent across many of these applications is that the use of the property doesn't change, the exterior of the property doesn't change, and for all appearances, continues to look and operate as a single-family residence with the conditions that we've proposed. So given that the request for a tourist home wouldn't allow an additional dwelling unit above and beyond what's already there. If this application isn't approved, they still have the ability to have 4 dwelling units on the property. So that really wouldn't change. Even though it's a local road, this one has some comparison to some of the other ones. I think the Ironbound Road one rings a bell in that it's not interior to an existing subdivision and it's inside the PSA. So.
And Mr. Kropp, I guess it's also possible that there'll be less traffic, because in theory, if it's, year-round lease rentals for all the 4 units, then there's always people there, and if your vacation rentals aren't necessarily going to be constantly booked. And just from a rental perspective, it is a great spot, especially if you're cyclists or into history, pop right on the parkway right there.
Other,
I have a concern about taking 3 affordable units off the market. And I also have a very severe concern about the fact that this is way down at the end of a street that doesn't go anywhere. It just stops. And so that does not, to me, meet the definition of arterial or collector road.
I would just like to offer, as I've said before, I'm beginning to feel more and more that these units, short-term rentals, aren't consistent with the comp plan. When I read the applicant's letter, they talk about how short-term renters will create more profit for them, and it's all driven by the shared economy, and this, we're supposed to approve this application on this premise that high ratings for landlords and tenants are important factors. But the reality is, we're not saying as a condition that it has to be Airbnb, it has to be this kind of economic model. It could just become a transient rental for any purpose, for any amount, based on the conditions of the SUP. When I read through the comp plan, if you look at economic development, 1.1, 2.3, 3.4, 6, 6.1, 6.3, and 6.4 and 5, we talk about maintaining an active and effective economic development strategy, which includes existing business retention and expansion and support to the tourism industry. Provide tourism and associated industries as tourism and associated industries as a year-round industry. Promote the retention and creation of full-time job opportunities and wages to benefit, with benefits, and to make housing affordable for those employees in James City County. So I do not intend to support this. I think this application flies in the face of what we've established for these type of rental opportunities. It's not on a collector road. It's not on an arterial road. We have talked about having only one. I understand it's 4 dwelling units, but we have talked about only having one contracted stay on a part. I look at it as a parcel, not as a dwelling unit. And so we have the opportunity to have 4 different folks in 2 dwelling units, or I shouldn't say 2 dwelling units, but in 2 facilities. So I don't intend to support this, as I don't believe it's consistent with our comp plan.
I support Mr. O'Connor. I won't be voting for it either. I think this is an unfortunate precedent for us to set in the county.
I think, just to throw this in there, I think it's tough, because we all know the reality is that folks are doing this anyway, like all over the place. Just a quick search of VRBO or whatever online, and it's really kind of, you don't want to go down that road. It's pretty depressing, but it's always good to see folks come forward and play by the rules and go through the legislative process. So I really appreciate that, and I'm still up in the air at this point. But I do think it is a major factor for me in leaning towards possibly supporting is that it is not, it's not deep within the subdivision. And and like I said to Mr. Kropp, I just don't think think it's actually, there'd be less density there. But yeah, there's a fine line too with the brick and mortar and the hotels and this road we're going down. I'd feel better about it if we could put, like we talked about a few months ago, a sunset clause on these things. And when we approve a special use permit, it sticks with that land. So it's a tough call.
I watched the Housing Task Force for a year, and of course, there was a study that occurred. We've yet to see how that shakes out, but one of the recommendations that actually ends up trying to add a tool to that toolkit of solving this problem. I mean, we have a problem with affordable housing in this county. The proposal of changing some of the land use zoning practices to allow for the development of auxiliary units. And in fact, this Planning Commission approved that variance off of Centerville Road for a grandmother's house that they wanted to, in fact, put into the auxiliary housing. So I've got a problem with, here we have, since 1985, had probably 3 or 4 units that have been serving that purpose, and now we're going to take it off of. That's all I have.
Anyone care to make a motion?
Well, I'm going to move disapproval of JCC SUP 19-0019.
Call the roll, Mr. Holt.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor to not recommend approval. Ms. Leverett, so an affirmative would be to support not recommending approval.
Right. Aye.
Mr. Polster.
Aye.
Mr. Schmidt.
No.
Mr. O'Connor.
Aye.
Mr. Krupp.
Aye.
And Mr. Haldeman.
No. Carries.
Before we leave this topic, just a minor point, when it goes to the board on the condition about the total, or contracts per rental property, there's some extra words in there, an extra "the" in there, so that just needs to be edited out when it goes to the board. You're welcome.
Next on the public hearing, number 2, Z-19-0014, Master Plan 19-0016, the Promenade at John Tyler Highway, Proffer, and Master Plan. And Ms. Leverett, you may be excused.
Thank you.
I'll get you when the next one starts.
Mr. Rivera, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the Planning Commission. Mr. Jerry Bowman of Francisco's at Promenade LLC has submitted a request to amend the adopted proffers and master plan for the Promenade at John Tyler Highway to allow for the construction of an additional 10-plex building on the site. The Promenade is a master plan community approved by the Board of Supervisors on December of 2013. It consists of up to 204 residential units and approximately 48,000 square feet of commercial use. The entire master plan area is on mixed use, with proffers and designated mixed use by the 2015 Comprehensive Plan, and located within the primary service area. The proposed 204 residential units are distributed in the following types of structures: 11 10-plex buildings, 40 duplex buildings, 14 multifamily units, or the live-aboves units, associated with the mixed-use buildings planned at the 4 outparcels adjacent to Route 199. This amendment application proposes revisions to the adopted master plan and proffers for a portion of the Promenade, more specifically, the 4 outparcels adjacent to Route 199, to allow the following change. In lieu of constructing the 14 live-above units as part of the mixed-use buildings at the 4 outparcels, the applicant is proposing to build a 10-plex, all-residential building in one of the outparcels located at 5311 John Tyler Highway. To reflect this change, the proposed master plan revises the land use designation of a portion of the outparcel located at 5311 John Tyler Highway, which was originally approved for commercial, office, and multifamily units contained within a mixed-use structure, to a single structure containing 10 residential units, the 10-plex. The proposed master plan also revises the land use designations of the 3 remaining outparcels and the remaining portion of the outparcel at 5311 John Tyler Highway, originally approved for commercial, office, and multifamily units contained within mixed-use structures, to permit standalone commercial and/or office structures and open space. The proposed Proffer amendment would allow modifying language of Proffer number 11, community space, by replacing reference to the amended land use designation from mixed-use structures to standalone structures, and it also ensures that the public square will be installed or bonded prior to the county being obligated to issue certificates of occupancies for the proposed new 10-plex building. Staff notes that the revisions proposed by this amendment will not change the previously approved residential density of up to 8.3 dwelling units per acre, and will not allow any net increase in the total number of residential units previously approved. No other changes are proposed as part of this request. All agencies have reviewed these applications and recommend approval. Staff finds the proposal compatible with surrounding zoning and development and consistent with the recommendations of the adopted comprehensive plan. Staff recommends the Planning Commission recommend approval of these applications to the Board of Supervisors and acceptance of the Proffer amendment. Be happy to answer any questions that you may have. The applicant is also in attendance. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions of Mr. Ribeiro? Anyone have any disclosures?
Spoke with the applicant by telephone.
As did I. The attorney for the applicant, I should say.
I also spoke with Mr. Getty.
Thank you. With that, we'll open the public hearing. Mr. Getty?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, I'm Vernon Getty of 1177 Jamestown Road. My pleasure to be here tonight representing the applicants, Franciscus. Also here is Mr. Jerry Bowman with Franciscus. The area in question is right here on the master plan, parcel 28, where the new proposed 10-plex building is located. The basic reason we're here is that 10-plex buildings in the Promenade have proven to be extremely popular. This is the buildings where units are at the 2 lower tiers, and you will recall this is a project that 100% of the units are priced in accordance with the county's HOP policy. They've been very successful, and the sum and substance of this is it's shifting 10 units out of what were planned as mixed-use buildings here. If any of you all haven't had the opportunity to visit the Promenade, I just have a few pictures I'd like to share. This is one of the 10-plex buildings. In fact, the one would be right across the street from the new proposed building. I think they're extremely attractive, and just an observation, since the Promenade has been developed, it is very successful and very attractive, and it has also, I think, done what we had hoped it would do, and that there have been a number of improvements in the Williamsburg Crossing Shopping Center, and the vacancy rate there is way up, and it's been just good for the whole master planned area. This is a picture from right in front of the unit you just saw the picture of. This would be the location of the new 10-plex building. It's put another shot there. This is showing the buffer, and another shot showing the buffer down behind the existing row of 10-plexes. staff pointed out, there are no new units here. It's the same number of commercial square feet. There are no exterior impacts whatsoever from this, and I think this is a project that's meeting its goal of providing workforce housing to the county in a very nice and first-class manner, and we'd be glad to answer any questions, but we'd urge you to approve the application.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions? I just have one. The commercial space is going to remain at 47,000 square feet.
That's right.
How will that be adjusted to take the place of this?
Yeah. Back to the plan. Prior plan had a commercial building on this location with parking, and it had units on the second floor of this space. These will be purely commercial at this point with floors of commercial, retail, office. So that's how the space stays the same.
Thank you. Further questions?
Thank
you very much. I have one speaker card. Sorry, I'm going to have a hard time with the last name. Betty Haddock.
It's Betty.
Hatzidakis.
Thank you.
So the pictures that he showed are actually of my home. I chose that unit because there was nothing there. I was at the end. Otherwise, I'd have moved down, picked one of these that are down by the pond. We were told at the time it was a 190-unit community. They had no plans of developing. We were told that parking would not be an issue. We were told that the sound issues that we have would be rectified. There's been an issue with all of those. They've started development at this end. They've gone all the way around, and they're finishing at the far end. Why now are you going to start construction back where we're all living and have finally had the relief of the trucks and the congestion and the constant hammering has finally moved away from us, and now we're bringing it all right back? I understand that things change. I understand that you need to make money. I understand all of those things. They failed to follow through on the things they've promised the people that moved in first. And I'm very upset that now, because they see how fast they went, now they want to change it and come back and start building again here. I'm very concerned about the noise of the construction. I'm very concerned about the loss of the woods protecting us from 199. I know if any of y'all came down 199 to get here to this meeting tonight, you know how heavy the traffic is on 199. It is at least a buffer between the neighborhood and the road. We would have probably had more people here for this meeting, except the letter that was sent out didn't include the map. It just included addresses, which I assumed was the new buildings that are being built. I did not think, because you can see the foundations being poured, I did not think that this was a new, and my neighbor the same, and other people, I believe, were under the same misunderstanding. This was not included in the letter that was sent out to everyone. We probably would have had more neighbors here. We have a lot of concern about that. 199 is a highly congested road. And had we known that this was the plan, this is not the map that we were given, and I understand that things changed, but I would have chosen one at the other end. And now when we finally have construction done and you're back there, now we're going to start again here. I just think, how much is a dollar worth? They failed to follow through on things they promised the original purchasers. I've got a lot of concern. We don't have enough parking now, and you're going to bring in another home. That's just my concern. I just found out about this meeting today and left work so that I could be here for this meeting. I'm sure that other homeowners in our building and the buildings around us would feel the same way. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak to this subject? Seeing none, close the public hearing. Discussions.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask the applicant Mr. Getty to come up? I have two questions. The first is, in addition to the letter that went out to the residents, were there any offerings of a public meeting or an information center session that they could have attended to see what the impact of the zoning changes, requested changes were?
I don't know if there was with residents of the project. There was invitations to the adjacent owners in Winston Terrace.
And then secondly, just to clarify, I know one of the concerns raised was the elimination of the existing wooded areas. If this master plan amendment wasn't being proposed, my understanding is that those woods would be going anyway if that was a commercial building going in there.
Exactly. The buffers are not changing at all. There, if you look at the existing plan, there's a commercial building right here and a parking lot on the balance of that parcel. That, never the intention that that would be left.
Okay, thank you.
Else? Anyone care to make a motion?
Point of discussion? I thought he was just asking questions of the applicant.
Oh, well, this was part of the discussion, but, you know.
I'm sorry, yeah, by all means, if you have any.
Well, there's two things about this that I appreciated, and it was the public park piece and the number of parks that you see in this complex. I mean, it's just not just pocket ones. There's a dog, there's a public, there's at least an attendance to try to put some space in there, even with the density. The second point is that, as I was talking about in the last piece, is this problem that we have in the county on affordable housing, is that these 204 units are all affordable housing meeting our HOP. The piece that I thought was interesting is out of the 204, there are 32 of these units that are in that 30 to 60% of an annual mean income that are priced at $200,000 to $205,000, which I thought for workforce housing and for a school teacher or a fireman that was just starting off, that was something that was within reach. And the same thing is true for I think what it amounts to 129 of the units that are in the 61 to 80, which are priced at the 215 to 235. Once again, a real positive addition to the housing for affordable housing, and I intend to support.
I'm struck by the comment about there not being enough parking, and just wondering if it's kind of late in the game, but an opportunity to maybe throw a few more spots in that general area. I don't have, can't zoom in far enough to really count the number of spots there, but it looks like more or less a mirror image of what already is in where you live. I don't know if that's a question for Mr. Getty, or if that's not really a question, but just put that in the ring.
Just speaking with Mr. Bowman, they can certainly look at and probably add at least 4 more spaces in that area.
Yeah, I think that's really a need that.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
I'd just offer, I appreciate the application in that we've had a long struggling shopping center there with limited access, and Mr. Getty said the vacancy rate was going up, but I think he meant to see the occupancy rate was going up. So at least that's what my drive-by has indicated. So, you know, I think by introducing office space versus additional commercial, potentially retail space, adds to the mixed-use environment and leaves the retail in the Williamsburg Crossing Center. So I think it's a good use while maintaining the requirements of a mixed-use application. So I would be happy to support that.
There's no doubt that, I mean, I've lived here since the beginning of Williamsburg Crossing. There's no doubt that things have turned around here the last few years. I do miss video update though. Closed a long time. But yes, I'm supportive.
Motion?
I'll make a motion for the approval of rezoning 190014 and MP 190016, the Promenade at John Tyler Highway Proffer and Master Plan Amendment.
Call the roll, please, Mr. Holt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, for the record, Ms. Leverns is abstaining from this vote. Mr. Polster?
Aye.
Mr. Schmidt?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connor?
Aye.
Mr. Krupp?
Aye.
And Mr. Haldeman?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. We'll move on to public hearing number 3, Z-19-0012, and SUP-19-0020, Forest Heights rezoning and independent living facility. Mr. Weisong, good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening to the Commission. The county is proposing to rezone 47.1 acres of the Forest Heights area from mixed use with proffers to the residential redevelopment district with proffers. Accompanying this proposal, Mr. Doug Harbin of Wayne Harbin Builders Incorporated is proposing 46 townhomes and a 50-unit age-restricted independent living facility via a special use permit, all to be located on the 11.42-acre property currently owned by the Salvation Army and addressed 6015 Richmond Road. The Forest Heights area is designated low-density residential and moderate-density residential within the adopted 2035 Comprehensive Plan land use map. This area is located inside the primary service area, and the portion of Richmond Road abutting this area is designated as a community character corridor within this plan. Mr. Harbin is proffering 100% of the 96 housing units to be offered at affordable prices. Specifically, the 46 townhouse units will be offered at prices ranging between 30 and 120% of the area median income in accordance with the county's once binding housing opportunities policy. The 50-unit independent living facility will be offered at prices between 30 and 60% of the area median income and restricted to those aged 55 and up. By proffering housing affordability and other options supported by the comprehensive plan, the applicant has achieved the density bonus points needed for this project. Staff finds the proposed rezoning and special use permit to be consistent with the comprehensive plan. Specifically, the proposed density of 4 units per acre within the residential redevelopment district is consistent with the recommended density within the low-density residential and moderate-density residential land use designations. This proposal also increases the affordable housing supply within the county, which is supported by the comprehensive plan. Accordingly, planning staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend approval of the proposed rezoning and accompanying proffers and the special use permit with proposed conditions. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have, and I believe the applicant is here with us tonight as well. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Weisong? Seeing none?
I'm sorry, so just trying to play catch up. So is this rezoning just the yellow parcel, and what would be the impact on the 5 parcels to the northwest of that?
So the rezoning is actually for the entire area with the red boundary, and then the yellow parcel is the Salvation Army property where the proposed units are going to be. So all of the parcels within the red area would be rezoned to the R3 district.
So, I'm sorry I didn't think of it before, but what would we expect of those 5 parcels above? Would we expect that to be a residential use then and not commercial?
Yes, so on the master plan, this area is designated for residential and open space. And then this portion of the Salvation Army property is where the independent living facility would be. So the expectation would be that future development on these 5 lots would have to match with the master plan.
Mr. O'Connor, just for a bit of clarity, you may remember the master plan from when the Planning Commission saw this proposal before. But for changing out some of the mini storage units, the fundamental layout remains the same, including stubbing out that future street to where that can, where those lands can be accessed with the future extension of development later on. Not have to create a new commercial curb cut out onto Richmond Road.
I was a little confused about this the last time with the same 5 lots, and I guess my first question is, who owns it?
Those are all individually owned by 5 different property owners.
Okay, so the residents that have the homes in the front there, they own that property.
Those are each separately owned.
Right, and so if, in fact, somebody either bought one or they decided to do something with either one of the 5 or whatever, they would have to adhere to the rezoning that we're talking about tonight.
Yes, if this were approved, all the properties would fall under the restrictions of the R3 zoning district.
With the caveat that I think most of them are already developed with a single-family home, that could continue, certainly.
Right.
As I recall in our previous discussion, we talked about this in terms of rezoning the entire property, and my recollection is that that was going to be not feasible because we would have had to get permission from every property owner. Is that not the case?
But the distinction here is rather than it being an applicant-driven proposal, this is by the subsequent board action that took place after the planning commission saw this, the county, through board approval, initiated the rezoning. So this is a county-initiated.
Okay, so the homeowners do not need to approve this. It just happens.
They don't need to sign on to the application since it's a county sponsored
Now, if the
rezoning.
homeowners disapprove it, then they need to come before us or the
That
commissioners.
would be as part of the public hearing process.
Well, I guess that begs the question of whether or not the 5 homeowners have been notified as to what's been going on here. And did you receive any comments?
Not from the 5 homeowners, no, sir.
When I'm thinking about the rest of Forest Heights, the already built section of Forest Heights, have you received comments? And other than the one we received, have you heard?
That's the only written comment that we've received.
For those who weren't part of the original rezoning, the mixed use was put there in order to allow the Forest Heights redevelopment to comply with setback requirements and the like. So this is, if I misstated, let me know. So this is now understanding that the Board of Supervisors didn't approve the storage facility. They initiated this rezoning application to an R3 designation. So essentially, I guess we're just accepting of a variance for setbacks in the Forest Heights subdivision.
Correct, and the R3 is very similar to the mixed-use district in concept, just without the commercial uses.
Further discussion? Thank you. Any disclosures by commissioners?
Mr. Getty, regarding this case.
As did I.
I also spoke with Mr. Getty.
With that, we'll open the public hearing. Mr. Getty, welcome back.
Thank you, sir. Nice to be back. Now, of course, representing Wayne Harbin Builder, who I think you all know and met at the last round of hearings. Mr. Wayne is here, as his 2 sons, Doug and Brad. As you know, it's a locally owned business, wonderful reputation, and has worked with the county for years in its community development efforts and the provision of affordable housing. We're back. We went to the board after you all recommended approval of the previous application. The board heard the case and deferred acting on it. I think they realized that while the mixed-use zoning district worked very well for the initial redevelopment of Forest Heights, it really no longer made sense, in that they concluded, as many of you all felt, I think, that this was really not an appropriate place to force commercial development. Accordingly, as was been described, the Board of Supervisors initiated this rezoning to R3. What hasn't changed is the Salvation Army still isn't going to build there. They're going to sell their property, use the proceeds to continue the good works they do in the community at the other site they have purchased. So the development that is contemplated by the current master plan simply isn't going to occur. The applicant continues to proposed 46 townhomes on the just under 7 acres. There have been no changes there from the prior proposal you saw. With the elimination of the commercial requirement, the applicant now proposes a 50-unit affordable senior independent living facility on the just under 3 acres. And the Harbins are working with Bay Aging on this part of the project. You may be familiar with Bay Aging. They're a highly regarded, reputable nonprofit based on the Middle Peninsula and already own and operate a very similar senior apartment project called Parker View on Ironbound Road. Here's the new plan with the townhouses as you've seen. This is where the mini storage used to be, and the senior independent living facility is now proposed. Again, no buffers change. In fact, there'd be a little bit less impervious surface in that there is an LID BMP feature here, what was previously storage units and parking. Just highlights the buffer and open space in the project. A couple other changes. The rules have actually changed on Proffer since we were before you last. The board adopted a new Proffer ordinance, and the applicant has elected, as they can do under the ordinance, to continue to offer proffers, and is offering a number of proffers, including cash proffers that you've seen. A new proffer that's in there is the use of either extensive, better site design, low impact development techniques in the stormwater management of the property, or achieving green building certification for the buildings under Earthcraft, LEED, or an equivalent program. So that's an enhancement in the proposal since you last saw it. We're very happy to be before you with a staff recommendation of approval and, of course, agree with it. We do think this project's consistent with the comprehensive plan. There is a pressing need, and we've talked about it. There was some discussion just now in the prior case for quality, affordable workforce housing in the county, and I think especially for low-income seniors, given the demographics of the county here. The townhouses will increase the supply of quality for sale units. Again, 100% of these townhomes will be priced in accordance with HOP. 100% of the apartments are age-restricted and restricted to rents in the 30 to 60% of AMI under HOP, so that the lowest tier for truly affordable units. And again, that will help meet the need for quality housing for low-income seniors. And we think this project has no adverse impacts on surrounding development or zoning. There are no traffic issues. It's consistent with the Parks and Rec guidelines. There's pedestrian connectivity. There are no cultural, environmental issues. As I mentioned, the cash proffers are being offered on the townhouse units. It meets the adequate public schools facility test, and we believe it's a project that merits approval. I ask you to recommend approval to the board. We'd be glad to answer any questions, of course.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Getty?
When I looked at your revised impact statement
Yes.
in there, I noticed that the price of the 46 units, I think, moved from 273 to 235 or something of that nature. What would the price breakout for either rental or for sale be for the units that you're offering at the 30 to 60 and at the 61 to 80?
I think, and we talked about the for sale units in the 30 to 60 range. I think the limit there, and please, county, jump in, is just over $200,000.
Thomas, can you come up to the podium for me? Thank you. I'm trying to find him. Glad you had him right in front of you. Thank you.
So for using the HOP policy as a guide, the 30 to 60% range is 93,138 to 212,618. And then for the above 60 to 80%, it's 212,619 to 243,260.
And what is the rental piece? It was said in the paper that you were going to also rent as well as for sale.
Yeah, the senior living is a rental project.
None of the other projects, none of the other ones are for rent.
They're intended to be sold. Only in a dire emergency would they be rented.
And the rental then for the assisted living facility at the 30 to 60?
I apologize, I don't have that figure.
County doesn't calculate those, we only calculate sales price. So we would have to do that analysis and get that back to you. We don't have that.
I'm looking for something that hopefully is somewhere between 1,000 and 12 is what I've seen before in the 30 to 60 rental. I mean, just trying to make sure that I understand what that's going to be.
That sounds right, but again, I apologize. I think Vaughn Power and his folks are the
Yeah,
ones
we'd have to
that actually
calculate
do
the
that.
rentals.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just two quick ones. Mr. Gay, do you mind just clarifying the proffer for lead certification? Is it going to design and build to that level, or is it to get it qualified? There was an or in that piece, that's what I
Yeah,
wanted.
and actually the or is to achieve the density bonuses. The proffer is to either do a stormwater management system with the use of extensive low-impact design, LID, or achieve LEED or Earthcraft certification.
Verifying. And then my other question centers around the owners associations. So there's one that has been created for the county-owned properties in the Forest Heights neighborhood.
Right.
And those were mandatory for the county-owned property, voluntary for the other folks who had already existing properties. And then these proffers are calling for a separate association for the townhomes?
There will be a separate association for the townhomes that will be mandatory for owners of the townhomes.
And so the stormwater maintenance agreement, who will ultimately control the stormwater? The townhomes or the county-owned, the single-family association or the townhome? Do we know?
I think it'll be based on the design. There is an opportunity to, all of the site has a master plan for the stormwater. So I don't know if Chase has a better idea on the engineering of it all, but those opportunities exist.
Yeah, Chase Grog with Land Tech Resources. So we haven't designed it yet. The existing BMP for the out there that was done as part of that project has a little bit of room for the front part, basically where the senior living facility is going to be. So there's a portion of that will most likely drain to that system. And based on how much of that is draining there, there'll be a calculation done to how much of that, of the Forest Heights, or of this new master plan amendment that has to pay to that, and what will be the existing HOA.
Okay, great.
We just haven't gotten to that point yet to answer that.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Questions? Thank you very much. I have some speaker cards. Mr. Steve Gone. You state your name and address for the record.
Steve Gahn, 4010 Coronation in James City County. I'm a board member with the Salvation Army. First of all, thank you for allowing me to speak to you today. I sort of have a heart for the Salvation Army because coming up as a child, my grandmother raised 4 kids on her own, separated from her husband, and Salvation Army sort of helped her through those hard years back in those days. And my mom, who was my actually adopted mom at 2 years old, took me in and raised me in the Salvation Army, raised me as a child going to church there. And most people don't realize the Salvation Army is a church. They think it's the American Red Cross because they help so many people. But as a child, from 2 years old till I was 18, my mother drugged me to the Salvation Army pretty much every day. I got to watch and see what the Salvation Army did to people's lives and how it affected the community. I didn't realize it until I was older, how it actually affected me. We didn't have a lot, but when I compared what I saw come through the Salvation Army, I felt like I did have a lot growing up. Because a lot of people that came through the Salvation Army didn't have very much. From transits coming through that they would put up in a hotel and give them a place to sleep and a bed and a warm meal and send them off on their trip with a little money and some clothes. It really touched my life. My parents didn't have a lot of money. We didn't have a lot of money, and we never got a birthday present or anything coming up. But at Christmas, man, do we have a great Christmas. And I never understood how my parents could save money to have the best Christmas that we could have, my brother and I, until I got older and realized it was the Salvation Army that helped us have that great Christmas. And my parents volunteered for the Salvation Army, both of them for 50 years, basically till they couldn't walk. And I'm honored to be on the board of the Salvation Army right now. But I realize the impact of this piece of property on the Salvation Army in this community, how it can help individuals, young boys and girls, families that need clothing and food and a place to stay, and just so many things that this Salvation Army does. And my point is, obviously, is the impact on this piece of property, and would like to thank the Harbins and their associates for their hard work to get to this point. And if the Harbins don't purchase this property, I don't know who would go through this and how this property would be sold. But the impact of this property on the Salvation Army, being a board member and seeing where they're at now in this new facility, and how the impact of this property can affect this community and the people's lives in this community is major. It's either going to move the Salvation Army and this community forward, or it's going to be a big setback in what the Salvation Army can do in this community.
Thank you very much. Next speaker card is Mr. Jeremy Lynn. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Jeremy Lind. I live at 4524 Village Park Drive East in Williamsburg. I want to say thank you for having me. My name is Lieutenant Jeremy Lind. My wife and I, Lieutenant Whitney Lind, are the Corps officers of the Salvation Army of Greater Williamsburg. That means we oversee the day-to-day operations of the Salvation Army here in our community. The Salvation Army opened a permanent office in Williamsburg in 1992, and ever since then, we've been committed to helping our neighbors in need here in Williamsburg, James City County, and Upper York County. A number of years ago, as you guys are familiar, the Salvation Army acquired a piece of property at 6015 Richmond Road, on which we were planning on building a new facility. However, the decision was ultimately made that we would look for an existing building rather than build a brand new facility. And with that decision came the need to sell the piece of property. Doug Harbin was interested in purchasing the land, and we were excited to hear that Mr. Harbin and Wayne Harbin Builders were planning to build affordable housing on the property, because that's a need in our community, is affordable housing. I feel that our community would benefit from having affordable housing on this property. And also my understanding is that the new zoning up for discussion does not allow for commercial use, which would be a benefit to our community as well. Tonight I stand in support of Doug Harbin and Wayne Harbin Builders, and I encourage each of you to do the same and vote in favor of the Forest Heights rezoning. But as I wanted to say, delaying this project any longer would have a negative impact on the Salvation Army. We've been working closely with Mr. Harbin for over 2 years on this project, and the Salvation Army in our community now is operating on a smaller scale than normal because of this current project. The Salvation Army's service to individuals is currently unstable because we don't have a proper future. We don't know what's going to happen with this land as of yet. This has affected thousands of our neighbors in need the past 2 years. Again, it would be best for all parties involved to move forward with this plan, and I encourage each of you to vote in support of the Forest Heights rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have a card from Mr. Brian Maynor.
Hi, I'm Brian Maynor, live at 4079 Dunbarton Circle, and I'm here to speak in favor of the Four Sites rezoning. Quality came up earlier, and I can tell you that I've been a Wayne Harbin customer or lived in one of their houses for 17 years, actually 2 of them. So twice I've gone through the building process, and I can assure you that they put out a quality product. And their customer service is impeccable, and they stand behind their products. And I just wanted to get on record that I'm here in favor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wayne Harbin.
Harbin, 4041 Coronation, Williamsburg, Virginia. I've been up in front of you, I think, 3 or 4 times here recently. I've heard earlier in the discussion about affordable housing, and this is exactly where we want to be. I've heard it several times and other people coming up in some other projects that they want to do. So I think foremost, we would like to do it. We'd like for y'all to be a part of it, approve this, and let's go forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's the last of the speakers' cards. Would anybody else in the audience like to address? Yes, sir. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Gary Moore, 158 Forest Height Road, Williamsburg, Virginia. I was in front of you guys last time when we did this, and my concerns then and my concerns now, plus with the rezoning, one is traffic. So you guys see the map, you see how large the part they want to develop, which I had no problem with the development of that property. My problem is the traffic that's gonna come in on Forest Heights Road. So everything you see in the yellow, traffic will come in on Forest Heights Road. I'm correct. I am correct, right? So, Forest Heights Road was a rock road at first. And the reason they did Forest Heights Road was to widen it to allow us to be able to have fire trucks and safety equipment to come down there to service us like the rest of the county. So, they put their road in. It's not that wide, and as it is now, if someone parks on one side of the road, you have to stop, let someone pass. So, by adding the amount of homes they're gonna add, 46 townhomes, you figure 2 cars a home, 96 cars, something like that. More traffic coming in on that road, that's gonna have a negative effect on us. Zoning, changing from, I guess it's the 3rd rezoning, changing from mixed use to R3, which is gonna change the setbacks on our property from mixed use is at the whole use of your property to 20 feet on the back, 5 feet on the side. And those of us that live on my side of the road, we already have a right-of-way with the James City County for 15 feet of, on the back of our property we can't use. And then you want to come back and take 5 more feet of that because the R3 is 20 feet. When they put the road in, they gave up property on the front for property in the back. So basically, you're coming back and taking that property back. And I know people said 5 feet is nothing. Well, if I come to take 5 feet of any one of y'all yards, you don't have a problem with it. So that is a problem also. So the traffic that's gonna come in to service that whole area you got up there property that we're gonna lose, even though it's ours, but we can't use it because it's gonna be taken. That's a problem. So, that, we did have a meeting, I guess he forgot, on Old Town Road, but a month or so ago. But there were other residents there from Forest Heights besides me that we did have something to say about that whole thing. But, not about that, but there is a concern. I don't, Mr. Allen's here, but there were other residents that did have a concern also.
Thank you very much. Would anybody else like to speak to this subject?
Shirley Moore, 158 Forest Heights Road. I'm Mr. Moore's wife. My concern is traffic also. The problem is we sit right in the turnaround. So I watch every day UPS, FedEx, or anyone else, and additional to the three homes that were built past my home, which they only had this little narrow road to go on. So therefore, UPS or any of those delivery trucks, the trash truck that comes down that little road, they have a difficulty of backing up into that cul-de-sac. UPS and FedEx don't even go in that little road anymore. They park in that turnaround, and they get out of their truck and they walk down to those three houses. They have to deliver something. And now we're going to add these apartments that come, the entrance is going to be in that turnaround. So we have to deal with the traffic going into the apartments, that turnaround, and I've watched cars turn around and run up on the little curb that's in front of my home. And they have not figured out how to get another entrance into this apartment development. That's my concern. We have children out there. They would like to be able to walk on that road, but sometimes you have cars parked here. They have to pull over to the side. The UPS trucks comes, the trash truck comes, the mail lady, she goes down, she turns around in one of the neighbors' yard to get to those three houses to deliver their mail past my home. And which these three homes, the other one has just been sold, the other two people live in. And to get in, when they back in and out of their yard, the one that sits right in front of my door, they back on to our property to get in and out of their yard, because that's how small that road is that they have to go on. This road leads to the county's pump house down there where they do the water stuff. This is my concern with them building. They have not figured out another way to get into those apartments. And all that traffic is gonna make it even harder, because when those UPS trucks comes and the trash truck comes, they have to back up. So if there's a person going into the apartment complex, they're gonna have a problem with everybody colliding together. It's not big enough in that cul-de-sac. It's not even a cul-de-sac, it's a turnaround for all this traffic. I don't disapprove of them trying to build stuff, because everybody needs somewhere to live, but they will have to figure out another way for more traffic to enter somewhere else besides at the end of Forest Heights Road. It's not gonna work. It's not big enough, the road's not big enough, the turnaround's not big enough. We knew something was coming, because when they put it up there, they put a road closed sign. So we knew something was gonna go up in the bushes sooner or later. They didn't never tell us. And as far as this notifying everyone in the neighborhood, not everyone in Forest Heights got a letter, because we never got a letter to whether we could approve or disapprove of this development. We never got anything. Only time we get is when y'all give us notes to let us know these meetings are going on. So no, maybe 5 people got it, the probably newer house up front, but everybody in that neighborhood did not get a notification whether they could agree or disagree to this development. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anybody else like to address this? Yes, sir. You go first, sir, and then if you'll just wait a second, please. Thank you. Come on up.
Good evening. My name is Alan Billups at 153 Forest Heights. I think I'm one of the longest residents in that area. I've been living there for 25 years. I do remember when it was a dirt road, okay? I'm the one that dug the potholes and put bricks in it. Also got the gravel to maintain that road for several years. I'm the one that actually started, well, most of the people in the neighborhood came to my house for the meeting for the road, okay, in which I approved, okay, because I got tired of, I've had back surgery because of that, okay, but still, neither here nor there. Several people write today in my neighborhood, especially older people, in which I was, they wanted to name the road after me. That's
Mr.
just
Billups?
how much I've done
Yeah,
in that
we got to
community.
get you on microphone. When you turn around, we miss you off the mic.
But they wanted to name the road after me. That's just how much I've done in that community for the road, for the seniors, the whole 9 yards. But several of the seniors, after this road came in, property taken away, I've got 3 lots. Took for me on the right side and the left, okay? Marion Payne and several others not here tonight, but anyhow, I was very, very disappointed in a lot of things that was told to me, promised to me, wasn't done. Several times I worked a lot. I worked a heck of a lot. I used to come home at night, sometimes 10:30, 11 o'clock, and I would walk that road back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Several things that had been told to me that they would do hadn't been done. So I said, okay, maybe they're gonna do something later on. I'll leave it alone. So, like I said, I worked a lot of overtime. I come home again sometime 10:30, 11 o'clock. I said, wow, they done went beyond what they told me. So they're not planning on doing what they actually told me they was gonna do. One day, I just told my wife I'm not going to work. So I got up, I've got several vehicles. I got up, they was out there early in the morning. I said, you know what? This is not right. I got up and got all of my vehicles put in the middle of the road. I said, look, you're not doing what you told me. This have to stop. The contractor called somebody in James City County, said, Mr. Billups got all his vehicles in the road. We can't do anything. I said, well, I'm not going to move them. You move them. They called a meeting, okay? And things changed because they did, then they went on and did what they told me they were going to do. I said, okay, that's fine. But as we speak right today, most of the seniors are not happy with the last project. Not at all. A lot of them won't come to these meetings. They see, because I'm gonna have to say this, and a lot of them are holding me accountable because all those meetings was in my home. And they said they lied. They tell me right now today. So whatever you do, I'm all for it because yes, need more homes, safety number one, okay? But whatever you do, do it, tell the truth. I mean, you can't, once people sign this dotted line, okay, and then you do what you want to do, that's not right. Like I said, right today, I've got several seniors that would barely speak to me just because I was all for it and I told them, look, this is a great thing, which it is, but a lot of things that was promised, they didn't get. And for property to be given up, especially as much, like Mr. Moore said, much property that I gave up, I didn't get not one dime out of any of it. And the road could not have came through without my property on the right and left, both sides of the road. I didn't get not $1.
Stay with the microphone, okay?
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I didn't get not one dime from that. Because what I wanted was a better place to live for the kids. I've got 14 grandkids. Okay? One side of the road, okay, we no longer have, it's supposed to be a playground. That didn't come. But still, I go along with the new project, but like Mr. Moore and Mrs. Moore said, we have to have safety for the kids. It have to be, you know. And where I live, like I said, I'm the last house on the corner.
Mr. Billups, your time has expired, so if you could just wrap it up, please.
I could go on and on and on, you know, because, like I said, 25 years of being right there, so I know it all.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
My name is Joe Avalar. I live at 3005 East Whitaker Close in James City County, Williamsburg. I was the Salvation Army representative when the Planning Commission rezoned this property. And originally, it was those narrow properties. And if you look in the, I guess it's the left-hand side bottom, that's the original property line, and it was a straight line. The county asked us if we would exchange the, if you'll see that if you draw a straight line, we actually added property, Salvation Army property to the homeowners. And in exchange, the county gave us the right corner, so that we wouldn't have to have an access off of Richmond Road. So we could come down Forest Heights and have an entrance on Forest Heights. But that straight line represents property that the homeowners gained. And the problem, I think, was that over the years, the property has sort of drifted back and structures were not lined up correctly. And the county arranged it so that we exchanged the property that it's at the corner with the property that we gave up to the homeowners. So that being said, I only wish to express that I think this is a pretty good deal for everyone. It's a good deal for affordable housing, and I base that on my experience working in the homeless shelter. We run, for 1 week, our church runs the homeless shelter in Williamsburg. Also, Salvation Army has transitional housing, and the goal of transitional housing is to help people who are almost homeless but need help to get their lives together, to increase their finances so that they can rent apartments. And we have a great deal of difficulty finding affordable housing in Williamsburg. So affordable housing is a great advantage to the people that I work with. And then I think as a senior, I think affordable senior housing is also very good for the low-income seniors. And then finally, it obviously will help the Salvation Army so that we can do our mission. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anybody else like to address the commission?
Doug Harbin, Wayne Harbin Builder, 202 Landon Road. It's been a long process for us, working on this for over 2 years. I do appreciate the last time I was up here that we did get recommendation for approval. Wasn't necessarily our first plan with the mixed use having to do the commercial aspect. We were just trying to adhere to the mixed use zoning, which required a commercial aspect. So in this, as a developer, a small developer builder, certainly a lot of the zoning requirements, especially for a mixed use, requires that we've got to make decisions quickly on what's going to go there. So I had to come up with a use that I thought that, I could build myself and manage. I know that going through our process last time, originally this was, we went to the DRC, this was kind of our original plan on trying to do a senior independent facility. I think really does make sense for this property. So I think that, it took us a while to get to the point where, we did get a board-initiated rezoning. So I think that the project is even better than what it was. I've worked, tried to do as much with the community, before I came to the original planning commission. And then here recently, we did hold a public, sent out notices to all the neighbors in the Fort Heights neighborhood. And we had about 15 residents show up, to go over any questions or concerns, with zoning. Mr. Billups and Mr. Moore have been, involved with this, and I know their concerns with traffic, to the point of the trucks and things like that get bottlenecked at the end of Forest Heights Road. I know that because I've driven down there and had to back my way out of there and almost getting hung up myself when the construction of a couple homes at the end of the road going on. I think, that road coming in is a VDOT, meets all the VDOT requirements. So it's not anything that was put in there that was, not up to the standard spec of VDOT. We're also looking at doing the same. I think that one of the biggest things is once we have the connectivity of the road where people can come, if they get down or a trash truck comes in, they have the ability to make that turn at the end of the road and come on through the neighborhood. So I think, in hindsight, that this is actually going to free up some of the traffic issues that they're going to have at the end of the road. Strategically, we put the, independent living facility up towards the front. Looking at the numbers from Bay Aging, the majority of the people, or a lot of the people that go to these facilities don't have vehicles. So again, that's a plus. They either use public transportation or they have relatives that come and take them to places that they need to go. So, overall, we're either at or just below, what the original traffic numbers were going to be for the original proposal with the Salvation Army and looking through their traffic report. So, I think that neighborhood has come a long way. We've been a part of it. We've been a part of James City County housing redevelopment for many years. Built 2 houses on Neighbors Drive. Built a house for Mrs. Baker, Forest Heights, when all this was going on. So the neighborhood has come a long way for the better. And again, what we're trying to do is just to continue to improve what's already there and get the community some additional affordable homes. And certainly would appreciate y'all approving this.
Anybody else like to address the commission at this time? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Pretty weak, I guess. Open it for discussion among the commissioners.
Mr. Weissong, question real quick. If I remember correctly, the original application for the Forest Heights rezoning, I thought at some point there was talk and discussion of a playground. I know that predates your involvement, so I'll look to Mr. Holt, see if he remembers that.
No, that actually predated me. I mean, I know we've got the passive area there up at the front that currently there's no equipment in. I'd have to go back and get caught up with Mr. Pauler and Ms. Payne and see what that original was supposed to be, if anything other than what it is today.
The reason why I'm asking and bringing it up, and then I'll let others comment, is the proposed master plan for the townhomes includes, I think it was 2,500 square foot playground. So, understanding that you're going to have two neighborhoods near each other, and I shouldn't say remain, I am concerned that you're going to have folks going from Forest, there's going to be, we're creating conflict. We're going to have folks going from the Forest Heights neighborhood over to the other side to play on the playground, and to me, that's just not building community. So I'll just throw it out there that that's a concern that I have, given that that playground is located right at the front entrance. So we can talk about that as we go.
Anybody else?
Please.
You go ahead.
Well, I've got two or three things. First off is I've watched this since 2 years ago with Mr. Harbin when we came to the DRC. And Mr. Moore was there at that meeting, and he's been at every one that we've talked to. And he's raised the same concern. And when we had that first meeting, I asked the same issue about the narrowness of the road, and of course the answer was it met the VDOT. And of course, the points that Mr. Moore brought up is exactly right. That was my concern of a fire truck getting in there and another truck being there. But having said that, one of the things that I have seen in the change to the project, which I think helps to mitigate that, is this plan has a decent entrance into the front of the property as well as into the senior living facility. And that was not there before. And what that does, I think, is it at least makes people want to make that right-hand turn into the property to get to their place. From a safety point of view, is I would hope that the proposed VDOT connection stays where it is and not move to the back side, which I think would aggravate the situation if the connector road was there. So that I hope that the proposed VDOT connection to the next 5 lots remains where it is and not move to aggravate. The last point, and a really good point, because I've been back in that road myself and tried to make that turnaround. And I have to agree with Mr. Harbin is that if there is a way to go through the other neighborhood and out, that certainly is a solution to the problem from a safety point of view for fire as well as for traffic on that. So it's not the best of the two worlds, a solution, but at least does get to what I hope doesn't have Mr. Moore's house become the main entrance for people to get to their house now that they've fixed the front end of that. As to the affordable housing, as I've mentioned already twice tonight, for it, we have this huge gap. And the thing that really appeals to me about this project is the over 55 plus and the 50 units that we're going to have with that 3-story unit. And as far as I know, the only other project that we have like that in the county is the Bay Ridge one over by the Ironside. So this is, in my mind, a very sorely needed addition to the community for that group of folks. Having said that, when we looked at this thing before, and I circulated among the commissioners the 2 concerns that I had about the Pocket Park parcel that belongs to the county. And the first concern is that we're adding 46 units to the townhouses there. We're adding another 50 units of seniors that I would agree, they probably wouldn't have cars at all. And so where that pocket park is located is a pullout for a WADA bus station. And so one of the things that I had in my email that the planning director came back is that he's planning to have the staff initiate a request to the WADA folks for the installation of a bus shelter there. And they're not cheap, as a matter of fact, for it. And then the second piece is, as we've seen with Mr. Harbin's proposals before in meeting the corridor studies with the 50-foot buffering and the plantings, and given the elevation of where that facility is going to sit, that buffering is really going to take care of any visibility from Route 60. But I would like to see, and I would like to make a proposal, if we do approve this, that we make a recommendation to the board that the staff develop a landscaping plan for that pocket park. And maybe, in fact, look at that idea that you're talking about, Mr. O'Connor, about doing something with that area in the front besides just doing the landscaping. And so with those sort of recommendations and those comments, I intend to support the project.
Anybody else have any comments? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I do agree with Mr. Polster's comments about the need for WADA to review for the potential bus shelter, as well as for a landscaping plan for the pocket park. I think both of those are good items. I was watching the emails this afternoon. I also will be supporting this application. I think it does a number of things. It addresses the affordable housing issue that is a very strong need in this county. The independent unit, independent living facility is a real plus. I think as anybody who's watching the demographics in James City County knows that we have an aging population as the timeline moves along, and I think as many facilities as we can reasonably include in our developments, I think is a great idea. And then also the density bonus initiatives for either the LID for stormwater or the earthcraft housing development. I think all of those are great proposals. I think this is an application that meets the needs of the community as well as is forward-looking as well. So I intend to support it.
Thank you.
I just want to say thank you to everyone who's been involved, the folks from the Forest Heights neighborhood, the Harbin family, county staff. This has been a long process, and I do intend to support this as well, but thanks for the patience of all involved.
Unfortunately, we can't have every project be perfect. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could? But I think on balance, this is a good project, and so I will support it also.
I plan to support it also, but I wanted to editorialize just a little bit. It's an excellent site for affordable housing. It's right on a major highway, close to shopping. It does have the WADA terminal, which is an important attribute for affordable housing, for any housing. Some of the concerns that I have come from the Affordable Housing Task Force report. Our former housing opportunities policy, which is no longer in force, covered housing up to, for people who earn up to 120% of area median income. And the Workforce Housing Task Force report has lowered that to 80%, and I think rightly so. If I understand it correctly, 90% of the 46 townhomes will be made available to people earning up to 120%, which is not, in my opinion, truly affordable. But I'll say, I'd point out that the negative fiscal impact of this project comes out to just over $3,000 per unit, which is consistent with two other affordable housing projects that we've considered in the last 2 years. The Workforce Housing Task Force didn't come up with a target number of affordable homes for the community, but I kind of interpolated the number to come out to around 4,000. And I admit it's a guess, but it's as good as any, I suppose. So if we're looking at a $3,000, $3,100 negative fiscal impact per unit times 4,000 annual negative fiscal impact, I'll let you all do the math, but it's a big number. Finally, this is a no, not finally, I have two more. This is a concentrated affordable housing project, and the Workforce Housing Task Force recommends more of a mix of market units with affordable units. I know that can't be done here. This project has been underway for a long time, but just for future reference, that's an issue. And finally, if and when the area to the northwest is developed, I understand it, the access and egress is going to go through the yellow area and onto Forest Heights Road also. So that will even be more traffic funneling down Forest Heights Road at some point. Despite all that, I plan to, plan to support it, so. And I thank you all for your patience again. I know this has been a long process. Anyone care to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I would.
Can I
Oh,
add
please.
one thing? And perhaps Lieutenant Lind or Mr. Avalar could clarify, but I do agree with Mr. Billups too. My memory's probably not as good as his, but I do remember there was a lot of conversation about a playground out there, and I really feel strongly about it. You know, in my business, I see lots of conflict between adjoining neighborhoods, whether it's parking or trash or playgrounds or things like that, and I don't want to see that created here. So I intend to support this, but I really think that we should ask either the Board of Supervisors or the Salvation Army to consider making a contribution to Forest Heights, to that homeowners association, to put in a playground to support that community. I think it's important. I know it was one of the things that was promised. If I recall correctly, I think it was the Salvation Army was going to have a playground that was going to be made available to Forest Heights, and obviously that's not coming to fruition. So I know it doesn't seem like a big deal, but I think it was one of the things that was put out there to sell that project to the Planning Commission, and if that can be included in the recommendation, and you know, if we can try to do that for Forest Heights, I think that's important.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for approval of rezoning 190012, special permit, use permit 190020, Forest Heights and Independent Living Facility, with the recommendation from the Planning Commission that the staff develop a landscaping plan and examine the feasibility of a playground for the Forest Heights Pocket Park JCC parcel 3221500001A.
Thank you. Please call the roll, Mr. Holt.
Ms. Leverins?
Aye.
Mr. Polster?
Aye.
Mr. Schmidt?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connor?
Aye.
Mr. Krupp?
Aye.
And Mr. Haldeman?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. We have no Planning Commission considerations tonight. Planning Director's report. Mr. Holt.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Nothing additional to add other than what's been included in your agenda packets, but if you would indulge us as staff, the second part of this consists of a bit of a briefing about where we are with the comprehensive plan update. We are hoping to use this as an outreach, so part of the slides in here will talk a little bit about what a comp plan is, although you all are well steeped in that. We're reaching a broader audience, we hope, and have some exciting engagement opportunities coming up soon. So with that, Mr. Wysong, could you lead us through this, please?
We were going to do a PDF, but I asked Beth to change it to a PowerPoint. So that's going to take just 1 second, and that's my fault.
I got the cameras on.
Thanks, Beth. Thank you for inviting me to speak today and share the exciting news of what the county has in store for this update of the comprehensive plan, which, as you'll hear later on tonight, has relevance to all of us in the sense that it shapes where we live, work, and play. My name is Thomas Wysong, and I am a senior planner with James City County. Planning staff is partnering with the Community Participation Team, also known as the CPT, and the Planning Commission to encourage, facilitate, and report community participation throughout the update of the comprehensive plan. And I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you. Tonight, my goals are to explain what is a comprehensive plan and why is it important, why and how are we as a county updating it, and how do we intend to get citizens involved in the process. So what is a comprehensive plan? Since 1980, every local government in Virginia has been required by law to have a comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan is a guide to growth and development for the future of the county. As a policy document, it is general in nature. In expressing the long-range vision, goals, and strategies of the community, it is aspirational, but it is also actionable and practical. So the comprehensive plan is an expression of the public's vision for the future of the county. It guides future growth, preservation, services, development, and redevelopment activities, and it builds on the foundation of the county's past and sets a path for the future. So one of the common questions that staff gets is, what is the difference between the comprehensive plan and the zoning ordinance? And we think it's helpful to cover that. In essence, the comprehensive plan sets the vision and direction, while the zoning ordinance is one of the most important tools we have to implement plans through laws. So the comprehensive plan is a non-binding guide for development that sets the goals and the vision for the county, while the zoning ordinance is binding county law that defines what uses are permitted on what parcels, and it can also outline the specific designs and development guidelines for these intended uses. And the zoning map dictates the use of land in a given area or zone, while the land use map in the comprehensive plan is designating the most appropriate future uses and development. And the hope is that those two will line up. So you might be surprised by the wide range of topics the comp plan covers. Each of these topics is important to the future of our county. Staff analyzes existing conditions and needs in each of these areas for a 20 or even 25-year time horizon. Considering the growth that we've had and the growth that we're expecting, you can imagine the implications in each of these areas and how they impact one another. For example, transportation needs, environmental considerations, and economic development goals are all factors in land use decisions. Land use decisions can affect public services and facilities, as well as community character. The thoughtful creation of a comprehensive plan that coordinates all of these elements can ensure that decisions and actions are coordinated towards a common vision. So what can a comprehensive plan accomplish? Since the county's first comprehensive plan in 1975, there have been numerous programs, policies, and decisions that have been conceived from public input and discussion during a comprehensive plan update, and then given life through the strategic plan, work programs, budgets, and various initiatives. Here's just a few examples of what the comprehensive plan can accomplish. So in 1975, the first land use map was established in the county, as well as the foundation for the primary service area and the establishment of greenbelt roads. Fast forwarding to 1997, we see the establishment of community character areas and community character corridors, as well as the foundation for green space and purchase of development rights programs. And going to the most recent update, in 2015, the comprehensive plan helped inform the zoning ordinance updates, such as adding event facilities in rural lands, electrical vehicle charging stations, and small-scale mixed-use development. If we have an effective comprehensive plan, why are we updating it? State law requires that at least once every 5 years, the comprehensive plan shall be reviewed by the local planning commission to determine whether it's advisable to amend the plan. In James City County, we have a tradition of not only reviewing the plan, but thoroughly examining and updating it. Over a 5-year period, much can change. Growth can affect our facility needs and services, opinions and priorities may evolve, and there may be new state laws and county policies to consider. Because of this, it's helpful to renew the conversation with the community and to ensure that our plan best reflects the community's needs, which brings us to Engage 2045. Engage 2045 is an important opportunity to shape our community's future and drive real action. As the process for updating the county's comprehensive plan, Engage 25 will proceed over the next 2 years, starting in the summer of 2019 to summer of 2021, in a series of phases that allows for multiple opportunities to check in, learn about the plan, and provide input as it's developed. The timeline shows the 5 project phases that proceed from laying the foundation in the first phase through implementation in the last phase. At the same time, there are 4 broad aspects to the community engagement process that track with the project phases. We are currently in the listening and envisioning part of community engagement, understanding the vision and values of our citizens. So how are we updating it? For this update, the Board of Supervisors has put significant resources in place to get more citizens involved than ever before and to drive a more data-guided approach. Through the community participation team, we are coming to events where citizens are gathering and asking for input. We are creating fun and engaging in-person meetings along the way, and we're developing online platforms to reveal their aspirations and ideas for the future. All opinions and ideas will be considered and will help set policy direction. The Planning Commission Working Group, comprised of the county's Planning Commission and 1 member of the community participation team, will be overseeing the technical review. Along with a chapter-by-chapter review of the elements, the county is introducing scenario planning and modeling to explore and test alternate futures for the county in terms of their fiscal, transportation, community infrastructure, environment, and community character impacts. Citizens will be given an opportunity to express their preference for future outcome and the actions to support it. And a great example of this is our citizen survey. County leaders are listening and eager to hear from the public. As an important first step, we partnered with UVA in April to conduct a citizen survey, and we heard back from more than 1,000 households, which is a very high response rate. Using that feedback, we've begun to understand how attitudes have shifted by comparing these results to surveys from previous comprehensive plan updates. The survey has also helped us understand which services and programs are most important to citizens and the relative satisfaction of citizens with those same services and programs. A high gap between importance and satisfaction could indicate the county's need to prioritize. As in past plans, there are also concerns expressed about the rate and various aspects of growth. The survey also provides insight into which measures citizens are supportive of for managing that growth. More details about the citizen survey, the full report and presentation, are on our website. So citizens might be wondering how they can share their views. The citizen survey was just a starting point for conversation. Now we are looking for even more citizen feedback and ideas. And we hope that we've created an accessible, education, engaging, and transparent process to do so. Here are the ways that the public can get involved. So as I've mentioned, we had the citizen survey back in April. We have the comprehensive plan website up and running, which is accepting comments from citizens. There's an area on the website where they can just write whatever they think about the county and the comp plan process. We're also going to have meetings coming up in November, which I'll get into here in the next slide. There's also going to be a presentation to the CPT in the winter of 2020, and county is going to be coordinating with the public access channel to make sure that we're providing videos and updates for the public. What we're really hoping for is a great public turnout at our Summit on the Future on November 18th. Everyone's welcome, and we hope folks will bring their neighbors and their friends, and kids are welcome too. We've got an exciting evening planned. An informative presentation on trends and conditions in the county is going to be simulcast to various locations hosted by the Board of Supervisors members. And live polling is going to be conducted throughout our website. So we encourage citizens to bring a device that can access the web, like a laptop or a smartphone. Pen and paper is also going to be available in case people aren't great with technology, which I can certainly understand. There's also going to be station activities. So those are going to include a visual preference survey, mapping activities that show places that people want to preserve and places that people want to change. They're going to have an opportunity to show that on a map. And there's also going to be a board that's set up for the big ideas of the citizens, where they can just go and write down anything with a marker that they like about the county, things they don't like, opportunities for us to change, and so forth. There's also going to be light refreshments and door prizes. If someone can't make the meeting in person, we are working on ways to let them participate in real time through Channel 48 and the web. And if you're wondering how to stay involved, we know this is a long process and that not everybody will be able to attend everything. That's why we've launched a website to help citizens stay updated on the comprehensive plan process with info, materials, videos, and engagement opportunities. To summarize, this is the citizens' opportunity to shape their community's future by sharing their vision. And we're excited to see what big ideas and actions will come out of this plan that citizens have created. We're curious to see how citizens will make James City County a great place in which to live, work, and play now and in 2045. And we're truly looking forward to finding out. And there's a video here that helps talk about Engage 2045. Try to play.
Ever wonder how our community came to be the way it is? Why certain areas are developed and others aren't? How we still have rural landscapes amidst great pressures for growth? The answer to these questions is community planning. In the fall of 2019, James City County is launching an effort to explore the vision for our community for the next 25 years. The Engage 2045 comprehensive planning effort will provide all who have a stake in the future of our community with numerous opportunities to share opinions and ideas. We need your help exploring these important topics to create a strong plan for our future. This November, Engage 2045 will launch a community conversation to set the vision and action plan for our community. This is the first step to envision our path forward, and your chance to share your ideas to shape our community. Visit the Engage 2045 website to learn more.
Once again, my compliments to the team behind the scenes, our video team who put this, once again, another
November,
amazing video
Engage 2045.
together. No, just need to see it once. They do a tremendous job. Not only does it showcase this beautiful county, but they do it in such a professional manner.
They keep winning awards too, from what I hear.
And that's right.
I agree with that assessment. I made this suggestion at an earlier CPT meeting. I gave this presentation a couple weeks ago to our my HOA, and it worked very well, just as yours did tonight, Mr. Weissong. But I think the video should come first. Just a suggestion, just one guy's opinion. It's excellent, and it's a wonderful introduction. And as an introduction, it should come first, in my opinion.
So with that, can we help answer any questions you may have at this point with the comp plan update process, or is there anything additional we can provide? Otherwise, we're done.
I just think that it's important for everybody to know and understand that there is an illustrative process that's part of this. So when we're talking about what we want rural lands to look like, we will have an opportunity for folks to actually pick a viewscape, if you will. So we know how to define what the expectation of rural lands is moving forward, what the expectation of higher density living is, and those types of things. So I think that's a really important piece that allows citizen engagement.
I think this is one of the most exciting opportunities, and one doesn't often think about a comprehensive plan update as being an exciting opportunity, but I think adding the technology and the online participation, I think it's going to be fun.
Can I quote you on that?
I do.
Yeah. I had
We
a
do too.
conversation with my vet the other day, and she asked about the comp. Indicated to her that the way we were going to do the scenario planning, it's about the cumulative impact piece, the model. She immediately said, you know, when you guys try to decide something, you only look at this piece of it, not all of it. And I said, that's really kind of the wonderful thing that I think that we're going to be able to do with the scenario planning, is look at different alternatives that, as Tim is saying, are going to be illustrative, that you can get in there and take a look and see what that actually is going to be. So that was a surprise comment coming from her.
Kind of along the lines of the greater picture, something that keeps coming in the 4 years I've served on the commission, keeps kind of popping up again and again. It's unfortunate, like, how ill-informed our populace is about what's already kind of set in stone if we just did nothing. And we keep coming. I think you were probably, Mr. Polster, before you were on the commission, I think you spoke before us once when I first started, and I was like, wait, what? Thousands upon thousands of developments that are already approved by right. I didn't even know when I had joined the commission. I think that was the moment where it was, whoa. And so, to be perfectly honest, that's when I found out. So you just got to wonder, if you were to, poll our population, what percentage even know that? And is that something that maybe we ought to kind of get out there, as we're getting into these conversations? Hey guys, here's what would happen if we just.
I think we're going to get there. I've been doing some digging into scenario planning and the way those model components are going to work. And the key component for this is these transportation analysis zones that actually divide the county up. And when you look inside those zones, they start off with what do things look like in 215 in predictions, whether it's number of automobiles, populations, about 3 or 4 other different factors. And then the Weldon Cooper guys, the same ones that they're using there, they've got the 2045 there. And so when we were going through the little DRC drill here with Forge Road, I actually went in there, and that's where I got those percentages of, 97% increase in automobiles just in that area, and 33% increase for population that actually are part of that model that we're going to use for the scenario building. So we actually would have, I think, the opportunity to make some adjustments and decisions in the scenarios themselves to say yes or no, is that the direction you want to go to, based on what the outcome could look like if you did nothing.
Yeah, I mean, you're saying, like, yes, we have an excellent tool at our disposal, but is this something that, on November 18th, we can throw in front of people?
But
And
look at his plan. There's a
let's-
section in there where they're going to be able to take the model and have the community be able to actually look at it after we've got a chance to put the technical things. So that there will be
Right.
direct interaction with that model and those alternatives by the community themselves. I think somewhere in the summer timeframe is when.
Yeah, not on the 18th. That'll be a little bit
Yeah, I
late.
mean, I'm just saying, like, when we start to get to these feedback and if they knew the truth of what's probably already coming, it's going to be different feedback. So,
Good point.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Holt. Mr. Weissong, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have discussion and requests. I'm on Board of Supervisors duty next Tuesday, the 12th.
Oh.
No?
I must be December then. Okay.
Alderman's up next.
Good,
I think.
okay. Oops.
On it?
Oh, I'll take December.
Anything else for the good of the
I
cause?
won't be here for the policy committee meeting, but Mr. Kraft has graciously agreed to stand in for me.
May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
All right, we got to pass that candy.